Hello again, Mike Westphal here at McDonald Garden Center, and today we're going to be talking about cool season lawns. So what's a cool season lawn? Well, in Hampton Roads, we're a transition area, and what that means is we can grow lots of different types of lawns. We did a seminar in the past about warm season lawns, and those are Bermuda, zoysia, centipede, and St. Augustine. And so all of those grasses you can grow in the summertime, and so they're really pretty grasses that you can grow, and if you want to learn all about those, I definitely recommend going and checking out that seminar. But what we're going to be talking about today is cool season lawns, and in this area, fescue is the choice. Fescue is the only really choice that we recommend. Kentucky bluegrass does not do very well. Ryegrass is going to die in the summer as well as bluegrass. And so really we're going to talk about fescue exclusively and our type of grass seed that we're going to recommend for this area. So that is really what we're going to talk about, and that is what a cool season lawn is. Because we're in a transition zone, because you can grow all these different types of lawns, right now as we get into the fall season, it's the best time to grow a fescue lawn. And now typically we teach these classes in September. I'm teaching it today in August. Because some of us might have a lawn that might need to be completely redone. I've done it multiple times in the past. Sometimes weeds come in and you just can't get control of them. And so what we're going to be talking about is if you have 50% of your lawn is weeds, then it's actually going to save you money to start from scratch and kill it all and start from scratch. It'll actually save you time, money, and you really will end up with a better lawn at the end of it because you won't have gone through all the different types of herbicides that you'll need to control all of those weeds and to try and kill them. And at this point of the year, in mid-August here, as we get closer to the mid-September time frame, when you really want to seed, you can start to do that. And that's what we're going to talk about at length, is how to renovate your lawn and how to restore it back to what you want it to be. Fescue is a gorgeous grass. It's called tall fescue for a reason. It likes to be tall. So do know that most of your tall fescue lawns are going to want to be somewhere around the 3 to 4 inch range. So it's a very tall grass. It's an evergreen lawn. When it struggles in the Hampton Roads area is in the summer. So when we get really, really hot, like we just had in July, we had a very hot July, and so we didn't have a lot of rain. So you probably, if you're growing fescue, you might have lost some of it. And that's the unfortunate thing about this area, is that we're a transition zone, and so sometimes you're going to lose a little bit of that fescue. And that's when it struggles. But that's why we grow fescue lawns in the fall here, is because it gives you the longest time before summer is going to hit again. So when we seed in the fall, it's going to be able to germinate, grow, do its thing. It'll actually grow through most of the winter here if we don't have an extremely cold winter. It'll grow all the way through the winter into the spring, and then this summer is when it's going to struggle a little bit. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we can manage that when we get to that portion. But basically what we're doing is, if we can plant it in the fall, it can develop a good root system, it can be strong enough to withstand that first summer. If you've ever tried to plant fescue in the spring, you know that sometimes it doesn't take hold. And while we do have grass seed available in the spring, we really almost are not going to recommend it at all. We're going to recommend start to think about your Bermudas and zoysias and centipedes and St. Augustines around that time frame. But now is a great time to think about your fescue lawn, and if you've ever grown a fescue lawn, it is the prettiest lawn when you get it. It is absolutely gorgeous. It'll make all your neighbors envious of your yard, and that's where we want to get to you. And we can do this very simply. And so what we have is a very simple 2-package system, and I'm going to tell you about that. It's basically 2 kits that you can do in the spring and then in the fall. And in the spring, it's all about weed control. In the fall, it's all about the grass seed, and we're going to talk about that. And I'm going to go through this in a step-by-step basis so that you can kind of, again, if you want to jot down some notes for sure, we are going to make these available. These are our lawn care calendars. So we've got this small little page, which I absolutely love. It's very, very easy, very short, simple steps to follow. And it goes month by month of what you need to do. And this is the basic. You can get a very good lawn just by following this little half-page calendar. Then we've got a much larger calendar it's double-sided. It's got lots and lots of information. So basically it goes every single month what you might want to do in that month, and what you might want to be checking, and what you might want to be aware of, and mowing heights and watering and all that different stuff. So this is a very good one that you can kind of, I always post it on my refrigerator, and then that way I've got it and I know that I can check in and say, what do I need to do to my lawn this month? Now I'm not going to go over all of this information. This is just good information to have, so I definitely recommend having it. But what I'm really going to do is go over this sheet and talk about all the different steps, and then I'm going to throw in, of course, a lot of tips and tricks and different things that I've learned over the years of growing lawns in Hampton Roads. So that's how we're going to kind of go through this process. As I mentioned, the weather has been a little tricky recently. We had a lot of drought, and typically we do in the summer. And so typically we're going to have hot summers. We don't get a lot of rain, or what little bit of rain we get, it's an afternoon shower, and then that kind of tends to evaporate very quickly. So, but we just had a lot of rain with the big storm. So hopefully your lawns are starting to perk back up. But if you're in that area of saying, you know what, I haven't done a lawn in a long time, or I've let it get away from me and I really want to revamp it, that's what I want to spend the first step of this redoing or restoring your lawn process, is if we're going to completely take it and kill it all and start from scratch. And I know it sounds like a large process, but it's actually very easy. And that's what we're going to talk about first, is that's the first step. Let's say we want to restore, we want to redo our lawn, and so we need to kill everything and we need to start from scratch. So that would be the first step. And that's what we want to start doing now in the mid-August timeframe to the end of August, is we want to really start that process of killing all the weeds off, even if we've got some grass in there, killing everything off, and then that way we've got bare dirt to start from. And that's really what we want. So that's what we're going to talk about first, is how to kill it. Now I've got a few products here that I'm going to show you. And you can use Roundup. Roundup is one option to use. I don't really sell a lot of Roundup, but you can use Roundup. So Killzall is very similar to Roundup. Killzall will kill whatever it touches. It's a great product. What's nice about this one is Roundup typically has a surfactant in it that's going to burn the foliage off at the top. So it's going to burn all the weeds and anything that you spray it on. So it has that, nice feature of it looks dead very quickly. Killzall takes about somewhere between 5 to 7 days typically to show that the grass or the weeds are dying. But it's the same thing, it just doesn't have that burning agent in there. So you just got to give it a little bit of time to work. But it's really, really affordable. It's great. This is $19.99, and this will do almost 6,000 square feet, or over 6,000 square feet. So for 32 ounce concentrate, this is a great deal. You can do, so typically lawns are about 5,000 square feet. It's always good to know the size of your lawn, and it's always important to read the package on any product, or the label on any product, so that you make sure that you're doing everything according to the directions. But this is a very, very easy one to use. Kills whatever it touches, and then that way you can start from scratch. The nice thing about this one too is you can plant grass seed a week later. So that's really, really nice, is you can spray one weekend and you can plant grass seed the next weekend. Then we've got Decimate. So Decimate is a new one. So this is another traditional option, another way of killing everything, that whatever you spray it on, it's going to kill it. So this is a total vegetation killer, but Decimate is another great option. And then we've even got an organic. So this is Natural Guard's grass and weed killer. This is a non-selective. It's going to kill whatever it touches. So it's just like these other products. So we've got 3 options for you to choose from to kill all of the vegetation off in your lawn. And what we do is we want to use these products, we want to use something to kill it, because you don't want to go through and just scalp the lawn, or we don't want to till. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. We just want to kill it all. And why do we want to start so early? I mean, you might be thinking, hey, with this I can spray and plant grass seed a week later. But what you want to do is you want to kill all the weeds. Weeds are weeds because they grow very quickly and they produce seeds very quickly. And so when you kill the vegetation, so when you kill the top growth with one of these products and everything dies, the seeds are still viable. And so when you kill weeds, and then the seeds are going to germinate and come right back. So what I really want is to kill everything, give it about 2 or 3 weeks, really. So 2 or 3 weeks to really let those weed seeds germinate. And once those weed seeds germinate, then we can go back through and do another spray. We can get a late second spray, and then we're ready to plant our grass seed in mid-September. So if we're going to go ahead and start renovating our lawn, then this is a great option, is to start with this. Then we can get a second spray in, and you can do that with any of our weed killers, or our total vegetation killers. So we've got 3 great options for you there as well. So that's what we're going to do first. we're going to kill everything off. What you want to do next is once everything looks dead, I typically recommend just taking a mower with a bagger on it, dropping it down as low as you possibly can, and just going over everything and getting as much of that vegetation up out of there as possible. Now, a lot of you are going to say, why not till? So we're going to talk about tilling here real quick. Tilling is only really recommended if you need to smooth out your lawn. If you've got hills, bumps, valleys, all these different issues that you need to level it out, you need to regrade your lawn, then I might recommend tilling. But even then, if you only have a couple swales here and there, you got a little dip over here that you want to fill in, I would recommend using topsoil over actually tilling. Because what happens is when we till the earth, then all of this stuff, basically you're almost flipping the soil. So let's say we till 3 or 4 inches down, and then you flip that soil up. So all of those weed seeds that are down there, they're too low to actually germinate, but then you bring them up to a germination level, and then you're gonna get a lot of crazy stuff growing. So a lot of people do that. They till everything up, they put our grass seed down, and then they say, we got a bunch of weeds growing. You sold us a bunch of weeds in that grass seed. Well, actually what happens is when you till, you bring weed seeds up to a germination height, up to the level of the soil that they can germinate very easily. And then you get a bunch of stuff growing. So I only recommend tilling if you have to, and if you don't have to, use topsoil to grade out to make your lawn nice and flat. Topsoil will fill in those holes and any of those valleys that you might need to level out. Other than that, don't till. Dethatching. Dethatching is really done if you've got an existing lawn, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then aeration is another thing that we'll talk about here in a little bit as well. But as far as tilling goes, I don't recommend it if you don't have to. It definitely will save you an extra spray and an extra amount of work that you might have to do to get rid of those weeds. So we've sprayed, we've killed everything. I just take a mower, drop it down low, put a bagger on it, mow it, scalp it as much as you possibly can. I might take a leaf rake. I'm going to bring this out a few times because I absolutely love this guy, this metal leaf rake. So this is a great one because it's an expandable leaf rake. It's really, really cool. I always love a metal leaf rake whenever I'm working in the yard. This is a great way just to get some of that dead vegetation out of there. So you can use that to eliminate some of that vegetation. And then you can also just go through and use a weed whacker if you want to, anything to just basically get back down to bare soil. Then we're gonna wait, see if it rains. We're gonna see if we can get some more seeds to germinate, some of those weed seeds to germinate, and then we'll spray again if we need to. And I would really recommend trying to get 2 sprays in. So one to kill everything off, and then the second spray to really eliminate any of those other weed seeds that might germinate. Then we've got a pretty fresh soil to work on. So that's really what I wanted to talk about was if you're considering redoing your lawn, then we need to start pretty soon. Now if you're overseeding your lawn, then we're all on the same page here now. So now, if you're redoing your lawn, you got to kill it first. If you're overseeding your lawn, then that's where we're at now. And typically I would recommend starting that around the early September timeframe. So that's a great time to start overseeding your lawn is early September all the way to the end of September typically. So you really have the whole month of September to do it, even into October. So you got plenty of time. I just want to be out there in front of it and say, hey, if you want to redo your lawn, you really got to start killing pretty soon to be able to get to get those 2 sprays in that I really recommend. All right. So now we're all on the same page. If you're redoing your lawn or if you're overseeding, we're at the same step. And so what we just went through on this calendar was August. And it starts with August because if you need to kill your lawn, we've done that now. And then that way you're ready to start fresh. And then now I'll talk about all the different steps that we can go through to get a really, really nice lawn, whether you're overseeding or whether you're putting a new lawn in. So the first one is testing your soil. That's a great thing to do, and you can really do this anytime. So if you're running a little behind, if it's mid to end of September and you're running a little bit late and you don't really have time to test your soil or change your pH, and that's what we're talking about, testing your soil, we do free pH tests here at McDonald Garden Center. So at both of our year-round locations, here at the Independence location and then at our Great Neck location as well, we do a free pH test to all of our Garden Rewards customers. So come on in with a little bag of soil. We only need maybe a little shovel full, like a hand trowel full, and then that way we can test your soil. and we'll get you your pH, and we can do that pretty much right on the spot. If possible, we'll try and get you your pH results right there on the spot. We've got a pretty scientific way of doing it that's going to get you pretty close to what your soil pH is. pH is very important when we're talking about all the different types of plant foods and lawn foods that we're going to put down. If your pH isn't right, then your lawn might only be getting 20 to 30% of your lawn food that you're putting down. So it's a very, very important thing to know your pH. And we can change pH very fast. So let's say you come in and your pH is a 5.5, which is about the average in Hampton Roads. It's about 5.5. And we really want it to be at a 6.5. So 6.5, we need to raise it a point. You can use Magical, and Magical is a great one. This is a small bag. This is about 1,000 square feet, but we've also got a 5,000 square foot bag and a 15,000 square foot bag. So we can do any size lawn. It's really nice because with pelletized lime, which is another option, we sell pelletized dolomitic lime. This one will change your pH in about a month. So it does it very, very quickly. Dolomitic lime takes about 6 months to change your pH. So if you check your pH in January, February, which is not a bad time to do it, then we can do dolomitic lime. But if you're trying to get your pH right, trying to get it right off the bat and get it so that your lawn food is being able to be used by your grass, then we need to change your pH a little bit faster. And Magical is going to do it. And the nice thing about Magical too is one 5,000 square foot bag is the equivalent to 240 pounds, I think it's 200 pounds of lime. So just one bag of a 5,000 square foot bag of Magical is equivalent to 5 bags of lime, which are 40 pounds each. So instead of having to deal with all that weight, you get one bag. It's really, really easy. So it's a great product to use to change your pH. So check your pH. Step number 1, definitely check your pH. So then the next step is going to be compost. Now, compost I absolutely love for lawns. It is one of the most important steps I think that you can do is put down a fine layer of compost, whether you're overseeding or you're doing a new lawn. So if you're doing a new lawn, we've killed everything off, put down a nice thin layer of compost over the top of your bare soil. So typically that's going to be about 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch. We don't want to go too thick. If we go to 1 inch or 2 inches with compost, compost can heat up. And compost is still biodegrading, it's still decomposing, and in that process it gets very warm, it gets very hot. And so what can happen is your seed will germinate, it'll look great, but then all of a sudden we're going to get one of those hot days and that compost is going to heat up and the root system is not going to be able to take that. And so what we want is a nice thin layer, a top dressing, 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch. Now, if you're doing an overseed and you've got an existing lawn and you want to incorporate some compost, it's an amazing step that you can do. I recommend doing it every fall if you possibly can. Put down a nice thin layer as well, 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch right over your lawn. Dump it in piles, take a hard rake and just push it around and spread it out nice and thin. And you can do that right over top of your grass and it's not going to hurt it at all. Make sure to try and do it on a cool day if possible because like I mentioned, compost does heat up. Now, what compost will do is it'll be a natural aerator and a natural dethatcher. So if you've got a lot of thatch buildup and you were thinking about dethatching or if you were thinking about aeration, you could put down compost instead. Now, if your thatch is really, really thick, I do recommend at least going through with a metal leaf rake, like I mentioned earlier, and just going through and just picking out some of that thatch, just to go through and just get a little bit out before you put down the compost. So that would be a good step to do is to get a little bit of that thatch out of there. But spreading compost will take care of it for you. And so that way you don't have to aerate and dethatch. It's a natural, it's going to decompose, it's going to warm up, it's going to work its way down into the soil, it's going to add organic matter, it's going to help with your thatch, and it's going to help loosen your soil. That's what aeration does. So let's talk about aeration for just a second because I think a lot of us go and put our lime down, then we go and aerate, and then we put our seed down. Aeration is good. Aeration, if you ever do aeration, definitely do core aeration. So those spikes, I mean, we used to actually sell those way back in the day. Those things that you slip over your shoes and they're spikes. Well, spikes are going to compact the soil actually because nothing's coming out. You're just pushing the soil and you're actually compacting it more. With a core aerator, what that's going to do is pull out that little plug and it's going to throw it off to the side. And what that does is that hole is now going to allow the soil to fill it back in and it's going to loosen your soil. So when you got lots and lots and lots of holes all over your lawn, then all that soil is going to loosen up a little bit and fill in those holes. And it's just going to allow more air penetration, water percolation down through the soil. So core aeration is not a bad thing, but you would actually you would benefit more from putting compost down. And it's a big process. I mean, if you got a 5,000, 10,000 square foot lawn, that's a lot of compost to spread, but you will reap the rewards for many, many years, because organic matter is what will hold moisture into the soil. It's what's going to improve your soil. It's going to stimulate the soil microbes. It just does so many good things, and it's a great bed for your grass seed to lay in. So when you spread your grass seed, when we get to that step, and you put down the compost, that's going to be a perfect bed for your grass seed to lay in. So great thing that you can do. So we're going to kill everything if we need to. Then we're going to check our pH. That's an important step. We got to know what our pH is in our soil. And then we're going to spread compost if we can. Now, if you can't do compost, I do have another option for you. It's called humic acid. And humic acid is basically like a prehistoric compost. So it's a dehydrated compost, basically, to simplify it. And you're going to spread this over your soil. If you do this about 2 or 3 times a year, then that's as good as almost putting down a nice thin layer of compost. Because what this is going to do, humic acid is going to loosen your soil. It's going to improve your soil. It's going to stimulate all those microbes. So it's going to do the same thing, and it comes in a bag or actually a liquid. And you can spread that all over your entire lawn. Doesn't hurt anything. It's great for flower beds and vegetable gardens as well. Really, really great. Kind of takes the staleness out of a soil and just improves it over time. So this is a great option as well instead of compost. But compost, there's nothing better than true compost, organic matter. So I definitely recommend using compost if you can to spread over the surface. It is a huge benefit. You will love it. All right, so we've put down our compost. Now we're ready to seed. And seeding is tricky. And so that's why we're going to talk a little bit about that for a minute, is how to seed. Now, let's first talk about the types of seed. McDonald Garden Center, we carry 2 different types of seed. We carry a shady mix and a sun mix. Now I'm going to talk mainly about the sunny mix. I'm not going to talk so much about the shady mix. The shady mix really is for very densely shaded areas. So I'm talking about areas that maybe get as little as 2 to 3 hours of sunlight or less. A lot of people have maybe like the north side of your house that doesn't get anything. Or we've got a lot of shade from trees. But even trees, I'm going to talk about that here in a minute, but even trees will lose their leaves in the fall, and that's when fescue is going to grow, is through the fall and the spring. And then in the summer, when the leaves are out there on those big trees, then any kind of fescue will love having a little bit of shade in the summer. So as long as we're not getting too much shade, then I will always recommend the sunny mix, which is just our all-purpose tall fescue, really nice blend. But this is our shady mix if you need it. It's got some hard fescues, some chewing fescues, and some red fescues. It's a really nice blend. It's very light. It's very fine. So it's not really a grass that you're going to be able to walk all over. So if you've got dogs or if it's in a high traffic area, I still would recommend trying this guy first because it's just a little bit stronger. It's a true tall fescue, and it's going to be able to hold up to that traffic better than a shady mix. But if you've had trouble growing grass, especially fescue, in an area and you think it's too much shade, try this guy. It's a great option. This is our sunny mix. So this is 3 different types of tall fescue. And I say sunny mix, but it's really our tall fescue blend. It's our mixture of 3 different types of fescue. And so when we're talking about fescue, fescue is tricky. There's a lot of varieties out there, and you'll see a lot of them out there. A lot of name brands. There's a lot of great options out there. What we do is they're tested right here in Virginia Beach. Lots and lots of grasses are tested here. And so what we do is we take that information and we sit there and we look at what is drought tolerant, what's dark green, what's disease resistant, what has the deepest root system. And we put all of those grasses in our grass seed mix, the ones that we think are the best. So every time you get a grass seed, a bag of grass seed, it should have this white label right here on the back. Very important that if you ever buy a bag of grass seed, if it's with us, it has to have that label. If you buy it from anywhere else, then it's got to have that label. So always check that label. It's very important information. What it will tell you is the germination rate, which I think is very important. 90% on all 3 of our types of grass seed. So this is a brand new bag of grass seed. It'll also tell you when this grass seed was tested and it'll tell you your crop seed, inert matter, and weed seeds. It'll tell you how much pure seed you got in there. So basically, if we total this up, we've got 0.25 of crop seed. That's very, very little, 0.25%. And then we've got 1.91% of inert matter, which is really just dust, so very, very low. And then we've got 0.09 weed seeds, which means there's very, very little weed seeds in here, almost non-existent. So this is pure seed. Also, we don't have coatings on our seed, so we don't put any kind of coating on there. If you ever buy a bag of grass seed and it says 50% grass seed and 50% coating, then that means you're wasting half your money. So if you get a 25-pound bag of grass seed, then you might actually only be buying 12.5 pounds of actual grass seed. So we sell straight grass seed. That's what we want you to have, is the best grass seed. We really believe in this. This is what we've been doing for as long as I've been here. So probably close to 30 years we've been doing this lawn program. And it's all about having the best types of grass seed. And they change every year. Every year they come out with a new variety of grass seed that's really, really good. So we're always kind of adapting and making sure that we have a nice mix. Now, why do we do 3 different types of fescue? That's in case something happens. And this is very rare, and I don't know that it's ever even happened with any of our grasses. But let's say something happens 5-7 years from now and it affects one type of fescue. You could lose your entire lawn if all you do is put down one type of grass seed. So I know a lot of us probably know Raptor or Rebel or all of these different types of titanium and all these different types of titans and different types of fescue. If you just put down one type of grass seed, then something could happen 5 to 7 years from now. A disease could occur and it'll wipe out your entire lawn. With a mixture, if something does happen and you've got 3 different types of fescue, you'll only lose 1/3 of your lawn, and that's something we can recoup from a lot easier, or might not even be very noticeable. So that's why we put 3 different types of grass seed in there. And we test them and we make sure that they're going to do very well. So we look a lot of test results, we figure out which ones are the best, and we put them right here in our grass seed. So that's why we do that. So getting the right type of fescue is super, super important. All right, so now let's talk about spreading our grass seed. And before I get into that, I'm going to talk about our first kit here. So you can see kind of us, all of this sitting here. This is our 25-pound bag of grass seed. We've got our big, huge bag of grass seed, and then we've got 2 bags of fertilizer. We're going to talk about this. This is a kit. This is our fall lawn kit. This is a great kit. This will get you started, and I'll talk about all of that in a minute. We've also got an organic kit, which gives you this 25-pound bag of grass seed and 2 of these organic lawn foods. So you've got an organic lawn kit, and we've got our traditional lawn kit. Traditional versus organic, that's up to you. That's a personal decision. I typically say if you're starting from scratch or you're starting a new lawn or you want to really renovate your lawn, go with traditional first. Let's get it juiced up. Let's get it rolling. But if you do want to do organic, we've got that option as well. It's a great a kit that'll get you right into the organic. Maybe a lot of people do the traditional kit and then they'll go over to the organic kit eventually. So you got those 2 different options for you. But I'm going to exclusively really talk about when to put down the fertilizers and when to do all of that. So we're going to spread our grass seed. That's what step we're on. I know I'm taking a long time to explain the grass seed, but I want you to have all that information because I think it's very important to know about the grass seed. But now we need to spread it. So that's what step we're on. So let's put down the grass seed. It's a tricky one. All of your granular plant foods and fertilizers are going to have spreader settings on it. Grass seed does not come with a spreader setting, and that is because grass seed is an irregular shape. I think a lot of us know what grass seed looks like. It's long. It's kind of got a little fat, middle to it. It kind of comes around, so it's, a long shape. It's a seed shape. So that is not going to fall out of a spreader at a perfect ratio. So it's very, very difficult to put spreader settings on a bag of grass seed. But what I can give you is a trick, and it's a very, very easy one to follow. If we're doing a new lawn, we want about 10 to 12 seeds, 10 to 14 seeds typically is what I'll say, 10 to 14 seeds underneath a quarter space. And then if we want a overseed, we want 5 to 7 seeds underneath a quarter. So typically what I'll do is I'll put my grass seed into a spreader. You can use a handheld spreader. I love these little guys. If you got a smaller lawn, these are very easy to use. Or you can use your push spreader. And what I'll do is I'll put my grass seed in there. I'll put it on a setting. I'll push it a couple feet. Look at it. I'll take my hand just literally like this and just go right down and look and see if I've got about 5 to 7 seeds underneath that quarters space. And then if it's a new lawn, I can just do 2 passes. If I'm doing a overseed, I'm good to go. Now, if you want to do 2 passes, a lot of people, I definitely recommend that. If you can do it, it takes a little bit more time. But then you would want about 2 to 3 seeds underneath a quarter's width, and then do 2 passes. And then that way you get that good coverage. And why would we do 2 passes with our spreaders? That's to eliminate any of those lines where grass seed's gonna lay over top of itself. That's gonna somewhat happen. I'm gonna give you a little quick tip on how to control that as well. But let me just reiterate this quarter test. For a overseed, we want 5 to 7 seeds underneath a quarter. If we are doing a new lawn, we want 10 to 14 seeds underneath a quarter. So that's kind of what you want to get to. And that's a rough estimate. I know that's vague, but just play with it and try and figure it out, because unfortunately grass seed doesn't fall out of a drop spreader or a rotary spreader at a certain ratio. So unfortunately we've got to kind of get as close as we possibly can. The worst thing that you really could do is put down way too much seed. Way too much seed, it'll grow, it'll look gorgeous, you'll be like, I've got the best lawn ever, and then eventually it'll die. It'll get a fungus, it'll get some sort of disease, whether it's in the fall or in the spring. That typically is when it occurs, is in the spring, is when it starts to really thicken up, and then you've got way too much grass, it's too close, it can't breathe, and it'll basically choke itself, or it'll get a fungus, which will kill it anyways. So what we want to do is make sure that we're getting that ratio as close as we possibly can. 5 to 7 seeds for an overseed, 10 to 14 seeds on a new lawn. So that's the best way to kind of get as close as you possibly can. If you come in, we do have some spreader settings, so we'll have those available as well. Different types of spreader settings that'll get you close. So those are just kind of rough estimates of what we've typically recommended, and that'll get you kind of close to where you need to be, but that's how you want to do it. Now, the tip that I'll give you is back to my metal leaf rake. After I spread my grass seed, I always, whether I've got a new lawn or whether I'm overseeding, I will go through with this metal leaf rake and just lightly rake it over the grass. If you're overseeding, you might mow your grass a little bit lower at this point, because one important thing about putting our grass seed down is making sure that we have seed to soil contact. So you want to make sure that seed will meet the soil, and that's what this will do as well. Is if we've got a little grass seed, built up on a tuft of grass, and you run through it with this light leaf rake, then it'll knock those seeds back down to the soil level. So you can either mow your grass a little bit lower, which I don't always recommend doing, but if you want to, you can mow it down to about 2 inches. Make sure that it's a cooler time. If we're about to seed and you're doing the overseed, then you can mow it down a little bit lower at that point, about 2 inches, and then you can drop your seed. Make sure you got some cool weather, maybe some rain in the forecast, which would be helpful. So that way we don't scalp it too low, because I really like my tall fescue as tall as I can get it. 3 to 4 inches is recommended. But this metal leaf rake will come in handy when spreading the grass seed and making sure that no clumps are formed, and making sure that it gets separated, and make sure that it's getting seed to soil contact. Very, very important. Now for those new lawn people, the people that are starting a new lawn, when you got the compost spread, which I really, really hope you do, then you put down your grass seed. And then you can take this light leaf rake and it just smooths everything out. It'll nestle that seed right into that compost. A lot of people will think about putting the seed down first, putting the compost over the top. I don't typically recommend that. That's going to set your germination back a little bit. We'll talk about that in a minute. Is all about the germination point. But this leaf rake will come in handy in getting that seed to soil contact. That's very, very important. So whether you're doing a new lawn or an overseed, spread your grass seed, get it as close as you can to that 5 to 7 seeds for an overseed, and the 10 to 14 seeds for a new lawn. Use your metal leaf rake and you're good to go. Now, next step, water. Water is very, very important. That's how we're going to get seed to germinate. It's super, super important. So we're going to talk about watering here at length, because it's very, very important. A lot of people, put down your grass seed, and then if you rely on Mother Nature to take care of it, it's not going to germinate. And let me explain why. When we water a grass seed is not living it is a living organism. It's still living. It's just ready. It just needs to break. It needs to come alive. And what we want to do is we want to use water to make the germination happen. Typical germination is going to be somewhere between 10 to 14 days. If we're cooler, so if you're doing it later in the season, if we're doing somewhere around the end of September to mid-October, then it's going to be a little bit cooler weather. It might take 14 to 21 days. In the warmer times, when we do it in September, it should be right around 10 to 14 days. The best way to get to germinate is to water. Water it in the morning. And what happens is, and I'll talk a lot about the watering tips and tricks and techniques here in a second. But what water does for grass seed is when the grass seed gets wet, it expands, it absorbs that moisture. And then when it dries out, it contracts. And that expansion and contraction is what will break the seed coating, wear the seed coating down, and then it can germinate and break free and become an actual blade of grass. So that's what's so good. Or that's what I really think once you get that kind of in your head of saying, okay, I need to water it, I need to let it expand, the grass seed expand, and then I need to let it dry out. So what we want to do is water in the morning. I want you to really try very hard to water in the morning, because watering at night gets you into a bad regimen. And when we water at night, what happens is you can get seed to germinate when you water at night. It's okay. But if we water at night when we have grass, then dampness and darkness will cause fungus. I always say that. If we're watering at night, you're going to end up with issues. And grass doesn't, or plants don't need water at night. They need water during the day. So they need that moisture in the soil during the day. So if we're watering at night and it dries out by 11 a.m., then it doesn't have a water source all throughout the entire day. So we want to water in the morning. Most important thing, water in the morning. How much do we want to water? Typically, we want to water about an inch every single time we water. So the best way to know that is my tuna can test. So we take a tuna can, we're going to put it out there. Doesn't have to be a tuna can. It can be a Tupperware dish. It can be something that can hold water. It could be a rain gauge. Something that's going to hold water. And then you can mark it off to an inch. If it's 3 inches tall, you just mark off an inch height. And then you're going to time how long it takes your sprinkler to fill that up. So whether you've got an in-ground sprinkler system or you're just using a regular sprinkler. So you can use like an oscillating sprinkler, you can use the turret sprinklers, you can use lots and lots of different types of sprinklers. And if you've got an in-ground system, that's great too. But I think it's good to know how long it takes to fill up an inch. So let's say we put our sprinkler out there, put our tuna can out there or a Tupperware dish. We turn it on, it takes about 30 minutes to fill that up. Could be different. Everybody's going to be different depending on their sprinklers, your water pressure, all those different types of things. So time how long it takes. If it takes 30 minutes, 45 minutes, then you know how long you gotta water. Every single time we water, we're gonna water an inch. So knowing that time is very, very important. It's gonna help you be efficient and get you to the right stage, especially if we're gonna be moving our sprinklers around. So if we're moving it from one section to the next section, okay, I gotta do 30 minutes here, I gotta do 30 minutes here. It'll tell you how early you gotta wake up because I really want you to do it in the morning. So we're gonna water in the morning, we're gonna water every morning until that seed germinates. Should be about 10 to 14 days. It's gonna get you in that regimen. It's gonna get you wake up early, get out there, water. And by the way, when I say morning, that's anywhere from, say, 5, 6 a.m. all the way up to 11 a.m. So it depends on your life and what you're doing. And you know, if you've got a night job or you've got a morning job, you can work into that time frame and see if you can get it there. We've also got timers, so there's lots of great ways of being able to do this. You can set a timer, you can go to work and you know that water is going to shut off. We've also got digital timers that you can program. So there's lots and lots of different options for you. Whether you've got an in-ground system or just a regular sprinkler, we can help you figure that out. But time how long it takes to fill up that tuna can, that'll get you your inch, and then that's how much we're going to water. And we're going to water every single morning till that seed germinates. Once the seed germinates, then we're going to water every morning for the next 2 weeks. So we're probably going to be watering every morning for the first 3 weeks. And why do we water so much initially? Well, that's because that blade of grass is very, very young. Now, if it rains, that counts as a watering, and you don't need to water that day. So that will help you. We'll get some rain in the fall. Fall is a great time to put down the grass seed because we get lots and lots of rain. So we'll have lots of rain. We'll have cooler nights, cooler days, hopefully. And so just watch your temperature. If you get home or you're worried and it's 3 or 4 or 5 o'clock and it's a little dry, you think it might be too dry, it's okay to give it a little bit of water if you feel like you need to. But again, we want it to expand and contract. That is going, so drying out is okay. And that'll also get you in the mode of thinking, once we have grass, letting it dry out by nightfall. All right, so we're going to water every morning for the first 10 to 14 days, typically, till it germinates. Then we're going to water every morning for the 2 weeks after it germinates. So that's very, very important is to know that. Then we want to start cutting back on our watering. We want to start going to every other day, the week after that. So in our 3rd week after it germinates, we're going to go to every other day. And then the week after that, we're going to go to every 3rd day, to the point where we get to 1 water per week. And that might take a little bit of time to get to, but what we're doing in that time frame is, as we start to cut away from our watering schedule, is we're forcing that grass to find its own water source. And when you force a plant, any plant, whether it's a lawn or a shrub or a grass or anything, when you plant a plant, when you have grass growing, and you don't give it water one day, it's going to search for water. Now, if it's young, it can't take that. So that's why we're going to water every morning for the first 2 weeks. But as we get past that 2-week time frame after it's germinated, then we're going to start pushing it. We're going to start making it find its own water. And when it has to find its own water, guess what's going to happen? Those roots are going to dig in. They're going to go and search for the water. And when they go search for water, you're going to get a deeper, stronger root system. And I want you to get to the point where you don't have to water much at all anymore, only during extreme drought times. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to water, get to the point where you're watering once a week. And then you should be able to cut that off probably around the mid to end of November timeframe. And really, we should get at least one rainfall a week. Typically, we do in the fall. So when you get to that point of not having to water and we can just rely on the rainfall, that's a great thing to have. And then when you get into the January and February timeframe, you shouldn't have to water at all. And by the time March and April hit, it's well established and you can just let it rely on natural rainfall. Now, always be thinking in the back of your head, man, we haven't had any rain for 2 weeks. Let me go out there and give it a little bit of water, an inch. Every single time we water, an inch. So that's how we're going to water to get it to germinate, and then that's how we're going to water all the way through. Now, let's talk about plant foods. So let me go back to my calendar. And what we've done is we've killed everything if we need to. We've checked our pH. We've put down compost. We've spread our grass seed. So let's talk about plant foods. And I've told you all about watering and how to get your seed to germinate and how to water all the way through. So now we're going to talk about feeding our lawn. So what you can do with this kit, this is all you need, is this big bag of grass seed. This will do about 4,000 square feet of new lawn and about 6,000 square feet of overseed. So this does a normal size, so that gets you right in that 5,000 square foot range. 25-pound bag of grass seed, pure grass seed. So if you're not buying grass seed from us, I hope you do, but if you're not, then make sure to check that label, because it'll tell you if it's got a coating on it, and that coating will take up 50% of the weight. So if you're getting a 25-pound of grass seed, you might only be getting 12.5 pounds of grass seed. So check that label. But with us, you're getting pure grass seed, so you should be able to get almost 5,000 square feet of coverage, whether you're doing a new lawn or a overseed. And as I was showing you earlier, we've got small bags too. And that comes in handy if you need a little bit more or you need to fill in some spots in the spring. We've always got these 5 and 10 pounders available as well. So we've got our 25-pound bag of grass seed and we've got 5 and 10 pounders as well. And to mention that, with our shade, so we've got the shading mix as well, is if we have some areas that are really kind of out on the outskirts but part of the lawn and that they're really in a lot of shade, then we can put down the shading mixture and blend it in with the sun, with our regular tall fescue mix. So you can, as you start to get into that very dense shaded area, if you feel like you need to, then you can blend some of this into that and let this go into the shade if you really have that. So you can, that's why these are great in the 5 and 10 pound size as well, because we might need to do a little bit of this in some of those denser shade areas. But like I said earlier, our regular tall fescue mix is really going to work great in anything that you get anywhere from 2 to 3 hours of sunlight or more. So it's going to work great in full sun. It's going to work great in a little bit of shade as well. So I definitely recommend trying this. And then if we need to blend a little bit of that shady mix in to really get into those dense shade areas, we can with a smaller bag. So that's what you get with this kit, and then you get these 2 bags of grass seed. So now we're going to talk about feeding our lawn. If you do just this kit, you're going to have a great lawn. But what I want to talk about is when to put down the first bag of fertilizer. When do I feed my plants? Now, a lot of people put it down right when they put down the grass seed. Well, let me explain to you why I don't recommend that. One, all of these are slow release fertilizers. So whenever you put down a lawn food, typically it's going to say a slow release fertilizer, which is good. That's what you want, is you want it to feed over a period of time. But they're always going to initially send out a dose of fertilizer pretty much right away. And how long is slow release? Typically you're going to get about a month and a half of feed, plus we're watering it a lot, so that's going to help it work through the soil faster. So if we put down a lawn food like this one right away with the grass seed, if we're doing a new lawn or an overseed, it both causes problems. Because if you're doing a new lawn, there's nothing there to use the fertilizer. There's nothing there. And so you're going to waste about half of the life of your fertilizer waiting for your seed to germinate. So there won't be any plant, you're going to lose half of that bag of fertilizer basically. So I don't recommend doing that. If you're overseeding and you put down a lawn food with your grass seed, then what are you going to do? You're going to feed your other grass that's already existing. And it's going to grow and it's going to look great. But then by the time you go and mow it, or your other seed might not have germinated. You might be pushing your existing lawn faster, to grow faster than your grass seed. Your grass seed's just sitting there waiting to germinate. You're still going through the watering process. You're trying to get it to germinate, and then it can't use the plant food, which you really want for both your existing lawn and your new grass. So when do we put down the first bag of fertilizer? Is after the seed germinates. So that's a great time to do it. Now I want to put in another option here for you. Just again, these are if you want to really just kill it and have like the most amazing lawn. There are some additional things that we can do besides just this kit. You'll have a great lawn with this kit, but there's some additional things you can do. So this is a new lawn starter. So new lawn starter fertilizers. Whenever you look at your fertilizer numbers, you're always going to see those 3 numbers across the front of the bag. That's going to tell you your nitrogen, your phosphorus, your potassium. Now this one is a 9-13-7. So that's got a higher middle number, which is phosphorus. Phosphorus develops root systems. So that's why it's called a new lawn starter, is because it's going to help develop a root system faster. Now this one we can put down first if we want to. Again, that's just an option if we want to put down an extra dose, because you can actually feed your fescue lawn up to 4 times. I'm going to show you a late one too that we can do later. So we can actually feed our fescue 4 times. Fescue is a heavy feeder. It wants a lot of food, and we're pushing it to grow a lot in a fairly short time frame to get established, to get strong enough to make it all the way through the winter and to make it into through the next summer. So we're really doing a lot of feeding because we're not going to feed it in the spring. So I'll get to that. All right, so you can do a new lawn starter, or you can do this. But when do you want to put it down? When the seed germinates. That's when it needs it. So as soon as you see that seed kind of pop up, then we can put down our first batch of fertilizer. So you can go ahead and feed it. And then it's going to grow. It's going to grow much faster too, because it's got a readable source of food right there. So you're going to feed it. It's going to grow very quickly. It'll grow a little bit slower with the new lawn starter, but we're developing root system. If we just do our lawn food, so let me show you this one. This is our lawn food plus iron. I love this one because it's got a lot of iron in it, which will help green it up and get it. It's just a nice source of iron. But this one's a 2404. And you're saying, well, there's no phosphorus in that. There is no phosphorus, but it's a lot of nitrogen. And that is what we want, is we want a lot of green growth. We want to really force that grass to grow. Now, on the flip side, we've got our organic products too. So we've got our organic lawn food. This one is, I believe, a 911. So this is basically nitrogen as well in an organic form. It's a little bit lighter, as organics are going to be. The nice thing about this one, this Espoma organic lawn food, is it does 5,000 square feet. And all of these bags that we're going to kind of mention are going to do 5,000 square feet. So again, know the size of your lawn. It helps us help you. But this will do 5,000 square feet. You get 2 bags with our organic lawn kit. So you got your 2 bags and you get your bag of grass seed. So you get the same kit if you want. So we're going to put down our first bag of grass seed, no matter what type of lawn food we're doing. We're going to put down our first bag of fertilizer, right after it germinates. Best time to do it, right when it germinates, put down your first bag of lawn food. And so that's what this one would be, or you can substitute with the new lawn starter. And then if you do the new lawn starter, then you're going to just do this one about 2 weeks later. And that's all you're going to really change, is you're going to do the new lawn starter once it germinates, then you're going to do your lawn food about 2 weeks later. Then you get the second bag. So why do we get a second bag? Well, the second bag of lawn food is going to go down later in the fall, typically around Thanksgiving. It's a great time to kind of remember, go out there and work off that dinner and push around some fertilizer and feed your lawn. So go out there around mid-November to even early December. Not a bad time. Now you're probably saying it's too cold for a plant food to really do anything, a lawn fertilizer to do anything to my lawn at that time of the year. And that is true. Now we have some mild Decembers, so it can use some of it, but what's really going to happen is it's going to get stored into the root system of that lawn, and then it's going to be able to use it in the spring. We don't want to feed in the spring, and I'll explain that as we get to that portion of the calendar. But that's what you're going to do is in September and October, it's all about putting down the grass seed and putting down your fertilizer and water. And then we're going to put down our second bag of lawn food in November. So that's a good date, good month to remember. Put down the second bag in November. You'll get a little bit of benefit as we start to cool down even further. And then when we get into spring, it'll use up the rest of that stored food that it has stored in its root system and use it up and green back up for you coming out of those January and February timeframes. As we get into March, it'll green right back up, look gorgeous, and then it'll be gone. No more plant food. It'll be out of its system, and that's what we want. We don't want to force it to grow. So really February and March, or January, there's nothing that we're doing. Now, when we get into the February and March time frame, then we want to start talking about weeds. All of our plant food has been used up. Now, let me throw in one other thing. If we do want to put down something, if you're worried about the winter, Fescue does very well in cool weather. But if we're starting to get some extremely cold temperatures, or you just want to put down an extra dose, again, this is if you really want to go above and beyond and do more. This is Winterizer. So we really recommend this a lot for our St. Augustine lawn people. So if we've got St. Augustine, zoysia, centipede, even Bermuda, this is a great option to put down late. You know, you can even put it down now if you're a summer lawn customer. But if you're growing a fescue lawn, then this is something that you can do in that December, January timeframe. So just another option. Excuse me. All right, so now we're going to talk about weed control. So when we get into that spring time frame, when we get into that February, March time frame, then we want to put down some weed preventer. We want to really start to attack those weeds. So that's what we're going to talk about next, is this weed control kit. Excuse me. All right, so when we get into the February, March timeframe, I really want you to just know about this. This is our 2-kit program. We're going to talk about, we've talked about our fall grass seed kit. Excuse me. And then I want to talk about our weed control kit. If you do just these 2 kits, you're going to be all set. So sorry, I've got some dust in my throat from all these bags. So this is our fall grass kit. This is our weed control kit. If you do just these 2 kits, you're going to have a great looking lawn. When do you want to apply this? I typically recommend mid-February. So if you can come in somewhere around the mid-February time frame, the earlier you can get this down, the better. 2 bags of pre-emergent. This you're going to prevent weeds. So this is what you're going to put down. Yeah. Thank you. Got some water. Got some dust in here from all these fertilizers. All right, excuse me. Thank you. All right. So we're going to put down our weed control kit. The first bag goes down around that mid-February time frame. And we're going to do that pretty early so that we're preventing seeds from germinating. That's what pre-emergents do. You also get a post-emergent with that kit. And what that does is it's going to kill whatever comes up. So around that February time frame, early March, you're typically going to see henbit, chickweed, dandelions, clover, all of those. This will kill all of those in that early spring time frame. So anything that comes up, this will kill, and this prevents pretty much everything else. So then you get a second bag, so you can put that down about 2 months later. So this is going to be your March and April. And then this is going to be your May and June. And so you get the second bag to prevent all those crabgrass issues. So crabgrass comes a little bit later, and this will prevent the crabgrass. So again, a very simple kit. You get everything you need. You get your post-emergent to kill what is ever up, weed-free zone, works in cool weather. So anything above 45, you can go out there and kill weeds. And then you get your pre-emergent, you get your preventer, you get your weed preventer. So with these 2 kits, very, very easy to do, very simple. And just apply those and you'll have a great looking lawn. Now we've also got some organic weed preventers too. So if you're going organic, we've got some corn gluten, which will be great to prevent weeds as well. So we've always got you covered, whether you're doing the traditional method or the organic method. And so that's basically the calendar. Is August, we're going to kill everything if we want to, check our pH. And then we're going to put down our compost if we can. Love that option if you can do it. We're going to spread our grass seed. I talked to you about watering, get it to germinate, and then watering after that. And then we talked about the feeding. So we're going to feed after the seed germinates, and then we're going to do it again in November. That fertilizer is going to get stored until the springtime. It's going to get used up. We don't put down any lawn foods in the spring because we don't want to burn our lawn. If you ever heard that term, I burned my fescue, that's because we put down too much nitrogen and we forced it to grow in a season that it doesn't want to. So always be careful. And plus, springtime, typically you never know when we're going to all of a sudden jump into those 80-degree temperatures. And we don't want nitrogen when we're into those hotter days, because you're forcing the grass to grow, and then it's going to burn, and that's what happens is we put down a fertilizer. So don't put down any lawn food. So then we're into the February, March time frame. We're going to get our weed control kit, prevent weeds, and kill weeds, and then that's all we're going to do. And then this summer, we're just going to let it get tall. So let me talk about that a minute, is our mowing. One important thing, keep a lawn mower sharp. Keep your blade sharp. That's very, very important so you get a nice clean cut. If you start to see raggedy edges of your grass, then you need to get either your blade sharpened or you need to get a new blade. Blades are typically not too expensive, so you can just get a new blade, pop it on there, and then you're ready to roll. So we're going to mow at a 3 to 4 inch height. I typically let mine get to about 5 inches and then cut it to 4 inches, which sounds really tall. Now in the spring and fall and even winter, we can get away with a little bit of that 3-inch size. In the summer, I really recommend it being 4 inches high or more. Let it get to 5, cut it to 4. Why do we do that? Because in the summer, that tall grass will actually cool itself and keep its root system nice and cool. So that's really, really important is to know that. Also with fescue is these are single plants. You're taking care of millions and millions and millions of plants. So it's not like Bermuda or zoysia or centipede or St. Augustine. It's not a spreading grass. So if we are out there chipping golf balls, or we've got a dog that digs up a section, or we run over something and we've just torn up a section, it's not going to spread back in. So we're taking care of millions and millions of plants. So that's important to remember. Now, let me also mention bagging. A lot of people, go back and forth on this. This is personal preference. I will tell you that if you let your grass clippings fall, it's a natural organic fertilizer, but you will deal with a thatch issue eventually. So it's important to know that. How do we deal with thatch? We can either use a light leaf rake. You can rent a dethatcher. You can get a dethatching rake. There's lots of different options out there. Or spreading compost in the fall is a great option, the best option. But you will get thatch if you let your grass clippings fall in. And it's a natural organic fertilizer. Completely fine. But if you do bag, and the reason that I would bag is, one, it prevents thatch, but also if we've got weeds that are popping up here and there. And if we're not doing a good job controlling weeds, if you do bag, it'll suck up some of those weed seeds, which will help them from spreading around your lawn. So if we start to see some issues with some weeds and we're working on controlling them with our weed control kits, but we still have some issues, then might be a good time to bag. So you got a couple different options there of whether to bag or not. In the summer, when fescue is struggling, I talked to you about letting it get nice and tall. It's called tall fescue for a reason. Do we need to water in the summer? Well, yes. If it's very, very hot, let's say like those 2 weeks we experienced before the storm, where it was really, really warm. It was, it was up into the upper 90s for a good time frame. It hadn't rained in a while. It was very dry. If you had a fescue lawn, you should have gone out there and watered it. And you want to water it maybe 2 or 3 inches. So let's say it takes 30 minutes with our sprinkler to fill up our inch tuna can. In the summer, we might want to give it a very deep watering. And what I mean by that is deep watering less often. So for everybody out there that might have an in-ground sprinkler system, don't let your grass get acclimated to always getting the water. So, again, I want you to force it to find its own water source and to have that deep root system. But in the summer, if we're experiencing extreme drought times or extreme heat, give it a good dose of water, 2 to 3 inches, once in that week time frame. And then you might have to do it again the next week if it's very, very dry. So just always kind of keep that in your mind. Now, if fescue turns brown, which it can do, so like Bermuda and all of our summer grasses, think of a golf course in the winter, it's completely brown, right? Except for the greens, but those are different specialty grasses. But pretty much your entire golf course is going to be brown. And that's normal. Fescue, and that's what it goes dormant. So it's going dormant to protect itself. It doesn't want to grow in the winter time frame. It's just the roots are alive, and then in the spring it comes back to life. It comes out of dormancy. Fescue can actually go into dormancy too. So if you've ever had a fescue lawn and in the summer it's starting to look brown, but it's standing up, so they're all standing up, all the blades are up and they're brown, it's still alive. It's going to come back. And actually with all that rain, you might have seen it come back a little bit. If they're brown and laying down, then it's dead, unfortunately. And then we just want to rake that up, get that thatch out of there, and get ready to put down some seed here in the fall. So that's our step-by-step process. Super, super simple. 2 kits. Our spring weed control kit in the spring, but our fall grass kit. Our traditional lawn kit is here. We've got our organic lawn kit. We actually sell both of these in a shade mixture as well. So we do carry the big bags of shady mix. So if you really think you've got a lot of shade, and I'm really talking dense shade, 2 hours or less of sunlight, then we can do a whole kit for a shade. So we've got you set up, whether it's organic or traditional, we've got you set up for both of those. It's a great way to kind of get that gorgeous, gorgeous lawn with 2 simple kits. Put down the grass seed. It's all about the grass seed in the fall. Grass, water, fertilizer, get it all done in the fall. Then in the spring, we're going to attack weeds and control weeds all spring and summer, and then we're done. So it's pretty simple. It's a very simple process. Let me see if I've got anything else around here. The only other product that I have here that I didn't mention is Weed Out with Crabgrass Killer. I bring that up just because in the summertime, if we need to control some crabgrass or some weeds, we can use our weed-free zone in the spring, but in the summer, you might want to use the Weed Out with Crabgrass Killer. That will kill crabgrass along with all your other broadleaf weeds, and it's safe to use in the summer. Now, some of you might be saying, hey, can I put down this Weed Out with Crabgrass Killer and then put down grass seed? Because some of you might be thinking that, hey, maybe if I go out there and I spray and I've got, 20% weeds, I don't need to completely redo my lawn, but I do want to get rid of some of these weeds before I go to my seeding in this fall time frame. So instead of, going and killing everything, I just want to take care of some weeds. Yes, you can do that. This will work great. It'll take care of the crabgrass and all those other broadleaf weeds like dandelion, chickweed, henbit, all those different things, clover. So this will kill all those plus crabgrass. The one thing to know, and it's important, again, to always read that label on the back. It's a little book in all of these products. It's a little book, is to read the label. But this one is going to say 3 to 4 weeks before you can seed. So when you've got a selective herbicide, something that's going to be selective, and it's only going to kill certain things and not your grass, those are going to last and persist a little bit longer in your soil. So 3 to 4 weeks with this one. Now, if we start to get a little bit cooler, the weed-free zone that you get in your spring weed control kit. The weed-free zone will kill anything in cooler temperatures, 45 degrees or above. This one needs above 80 degrees to really work. So sometimes we drop down and we get a little bit too cool for that, and you can use weed-free zone. This one you only have to wait 2 weeks to seed. So again, if you want to just kill some weeds and then put down your grass seed, all you got to do is wait 2 weeks with this one. So that's an option. The third option for that is, of course, our organic or our traditional killing everything agents. I mean, these are total vegetation killers. These are going to kill whatever you spray them on. And the reason I bring those up is if you're doing a spot treatment, maybe you've got a bad clump over here. We can just redo that section. And what you would do is you would kill that whole section off. Yes, you're going to kill some fescue, but you would kill that whole section off because it's been overrun by crabgrass or it's been overrun by nutgrass, another big problem that we have in this area. You can kill that whole section off, and then you're just going to put down a little bit of extra seed. You're going to overseed everything else, but you're going to put down a little bit of extra seed in just that spot because that's going to become your new lawn spot. Put down a little bit of compost if you can. So that's really it. That's our step-by-step system. Again, we're going to have our calendar up on our website so you can download this. Again, if you come into the store, pick one of these up. I think this is like the most important thing. It goes month by month, and this is the simple steps. This is just basic, simple, putting down your grass seed. Does mention the compost, does mention killing everything if you want to, but putting down your grass seed, when to feed it, when to do your spring weed control kit. If you do those 2 kits, you're going to have an amazing lawn. If you want to go the extra mile and do a little bit more, we can help you with that. Definitely. We've got our new lawn starter. We've got our winterizers. We've got lots and lots of supporting things that you can do to help kind of make your lawn one of the best on the blocks. But if you just want to do a simple, really nice lawn, I mean, so again, if you've got, if you want to do this yourself, if you want to do it yourself lawn, we've got it simplified. We've been doing this for years. This is the way to do it in Hampton Roads. Spring, all about weeds. Fall, all about the grass seed and the plant food. And that's what season we're coming up on is fall. So I hope you learned a lot here. I mean, that's basically it. That's the short and sweet of it. I'm sure you've got lots of questions. If you've got questions, I'm going to answer those now. But if you're going to take off, have a great day. I hope you learned a lot. This is a great time to start thinking about your lawn, getting out there, working on your lawn. It's a really amazing time to do that, especially if we need to redo our lawn, which if we need to redo it, if we need to start from scratch, now's the time to come in, start talking to us, get that information. Let's do a pH test. Let's get your soil right, and let's get you some compost. Let's get to work. Let's get our lawns nice and pretty for this fall season, and Fescue is the way to do it, and we've got you covered with everything that you might need. So hopefully you learned a lot. I hope you all have a great day. I will see you next week if you join me for our coal crop seminar, as well as our sowing the seeds next Friday. So we've got great seminars coming all season long. Check out our website. You can see all of them. We've got some amazing ones coming up. I'm actually going to be doing a happy hour where you can ask me any question and I'll try and answer it. Not to say that I can answer every question out there, but definitely that'll be a fun one to just kind of be able to sit around and relax and kind of have a conversation with whoever wants to join in and ask some questions. So we got some great ones coming up. Check out our website for all of our events. I'm going to come over and answer all your questions now. And if you're sticking around, I'll answer your questions. If you're taking off, have a great day. Thanks, everybody. All right. Sorry about my little coughing episode there. Picked up some dust from some of those bags. All right. So everybody's saying hello. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Hello, Katie. Hello, Teresa. Hello, JC is here. All right. Is it good that mushrooms keep popping up in my lawn? Yes, we have had a lot of mushrooms popping up. Not a bad thing. Mushrooms come from decomposing wood. So some organic wood product, whether it's the root system of an old tree, maybe there's an old log buried down there somewhere, maybe it's mulch, years and years of mulch decomposing, some chunks have worked their way down in the soil. That is where mushrooms are coming from, is decomposing wood. So if you're seeing a lot of them, it typically happens right after we get lots and lots of rain. So we just got like 3 or 4 inches of rain or 5 inches of rain, some of us. So you're going to get a lot of mushrooms after that. So that's very, very common. It's not going to hurt anything. What I definitely recommend is don't mow over them. If you mow over them, you're going to spread some spores. You're going to start to see more of them popping up here and there. I always go through and just after a big storm and after you start to see all those mushrooms popping up, go through with a trash bag and just pick them up, put them in the trash bag, and get rid of them. It's the best thing to do. If you let them naturally decay, that's okay, but that can also spread spores if we have another storm that comes through and it knocks them over and the wind blows them around. So I typically say get out there if you can and pick them up and get them out of there as best as possible. It will help. It's not a bad thing, but that's just where they come from. Let's see. Brian says, where's the quickest place to test soil locally? So here, of course, if you want to do soil tests, if you're in our area, Brian, then you can definitely test soil right here at McDonald Garden Center. We have 2 locations here in Virginia Beach, one on Independence Boulevard and one on Great Neck. So 2 great places that you can walk right in, and we typically will try and do your pH test right there on the spot if we can. So we'll do those pH tests so you got that pH right there for you. Now, I don't know who else does it locally, but if you're not locally, then most states, every state has an extension agent. You can contact your extension agent and typically get a test done through them, or you might have to send it off in a box and get a full markup. There you're going to get everything from your nitrogen and your phosphorus and all the different nutrients that are in your soil, and it's going to give you recommendations, but it will give you your pH. pH is the most important thing. All those other things are good to know, but really if you're like a farmer and you're doing some sort of garden. But if we're doing lawns, all we need to know is that our pH is right because we're going to give it the food that it needs because it needs lots of it. It's a heavy feeder. All right, so Katie, can you have fescue and warm season grasses in the same lawn so it will be green and growing all year? Katie, great question. Yes, you can. Zoysia would be the one that you would not be able to do that. Zoysia is very, very thick and dense, and it doesn't like being overseeded. So Bermuda, St. Augustine, Zoysia, typically those lawns, most of the customers or most of those homeowners that have that lawn growing are going to grow a rye over top of it. They're going to put down rye. It's going to grow. Now rye, I typically say the first time you do rye is the last time you do rye. It grows very, very fast. It's a very wet grass. It's gorgeous. It looks amazing. And it'll die in the summer, and then your summer grass comes back to life. However, you can do fescue. Most people choose rye because it's very inexpensive. And we only sell our very, very nice, very, very, high-end fescue. It's a very, very good mixture of fescue, so it's a little bit more pricey. This 25-pound bag is $99 by itself. That's why I recommend getting it in the kit, because you get everything that you need. The kit is $159. It's on sale right now for $119. And so it's a great deal right now. That's $40 off. So it's an amazing deal right now. So come in and check that out. But yes, you can. You're just going to spend a little bit more money. And what's going to happen is your summer grass, Bermuda, centipede, or St. Augustine, is going to choke out a majority of that fescue in the summertime. So what's going to happen is your summer grass is going to grow so aggressively, Katie, that you're going to probably end up losing the majority of your fescue. Fescue is not going to like having that competition. They're not going to win the battle. It just doesn't spread. It's just an individual grass. As I mentioned, it's just that individual blade of grass, and you're taking care of millions of plants, and they're going to get choked out by that summer grass. It's an aggressive grass. And then you're going to plant fescue again. And I think eventually you're going to say, I'm spending a lot of money on this fescue, and I'm not getting and it's not going to make it through the summer because I've got my summer grass and it's choking it out. So Katie, typically most people that do a summer lawn are going to do annual rye over the top, and that's what we recommend is annual rye, not perennial rye. Perennial rye doesn't always pop up right back in the same spot. It usually pops up over there, never comes back right where you want it. So we like annual rye. It dies completely off in the summer and your summer grass comes back to life. And then you put down annual rye. Again, it's very inexpensive. But yes, you can do fescue. And I've seen people do fescue and Bermuda mixtures. It's just Bermuda's always killing the fescue. And then the fescue, you fill it back in the fall, and then it's killing it again. So it's kind of a constant struggle, constant battle. So what I would recommend is if you're leaning towards a fescue, Katie, and you really want to try it, do it, try our kit, let it get tall in the summer. And then if you feel like you want to add some sort of summer lawn to it, then we can do that later. But I would say try fescue. Typically, with this program, you're going to overseed for probably the first 2 or 3 years. You're going to get the level right, and then you're going to be set for about 2 or 3 years. That's what I really want, is for you to be able to grow, to do overseeding, do new lawn or overseeding for 2 or 3 years, and then take 2 or 3 years off is my hope. Because you're going to get the level of grass perfect, you're going to have everything set up nice, and you won't need to be doing anything for maybe 2 or 3 years, which would be great. That's what's so exciting, I think, that most of our customers love our summer lawns, is because they're very low maintenance. Fescue is a little bit more high maintenance, but it is the prettiest of all the grasses. It's absolutely gorgeous. All right, so Krista said, should we be testing pH of soil before or after killing the lawn? It doesn't matter. You can do it anytime. When you kill the lawn off, that's not going to change your pH. Your pH is what it is. And typically, like I mentioned, we're always around a 5.5. If you've got lots of oaks, maples, pine trees, you might be as low as 4.5. So we can get you there really quick with that Magical. So definitely come in and do that. It doesn't matter when you do it because we can change it so fast. We can get your pH changed so quickly. So that's very, very good to know. But you can also do it anytime. So if you just don't have time and you just don't feel like changing the pH or messing with the pH, let's do that in January and February. If you're feeling rushed and you're feeling like you need to get the grass seed down, which we're not there yet, you've got plenty of time now, so come on in. But if you are feeling like you forgot it, you just didn't get around to it, we can always do it later. We're just going to be wasting a little bit of our lawn food, which I hate to do. But if you need to do it later, we can do it. We can always do it later. All right, so Tia said thank you. Janet says, what compost do you recommend? Janet, great question. Typically, for a good-sized lawn, I'm going to recommend bulk compost, and our bulk compost is McGill compost. It used to be Nutri-Green. I don't know if you remember Nutri-Green compost, but Nutri-Green was a Hampton Roads sanitation department, so it's got a little bit of you and me in it, if you know what I mean. But it's really, really good stuff. It's amazing stuff, and it works great on lawns. So I might not always recommend it for an organic vegetable garden, but I would recommend it for lawns. It's an amazing product. If you want to do mushroom compost, or even just a leaf litter compost, maybe you're making your own compost, Janet, you can use any of those. But basically, typically, if you need more, then you're typically going to go bulk. And here we only carry one type of bulk compost, and it's McGill compost. Some people might mix it with topsoil. Our topsoil is very, very nice. And so topsoil is going to raise your soil level a little bit. So if you need some of that mixed in, that's not a bad option. Or you can get bags. We've got mushroom compost. We've got an Espoma land and sea compost. We've got cow manure. We've got our McDonald compost, which is just basically decomposted bark matter. So we got lots and lots of options. It's just if you have a big yard, you typically are going to want to do bulk. So hopefully that helps you out, Janet. Really, any compost is going to be great. So anyone you decide to use is going to be awesome because it's organic matter, and there's just nothing better than organic matter in the lawn. Just nothing you can do. How do you spread seed along a flower bed edge? This is a great question. Very carefully. You might use my little handy. I love this guy. I definitely recommend having a handheld spreader. It's awesome. It's so easy to use. You can turn it nice and slow, and so you can slowly spread it. You could use your hand because, again, all we're trying to do is get that 5 to 7 seeds or the 10 to 14 seeds underneath a quarter space. So you could just do it by hand, take a little leaf rake and just spread it out if you want to be very careful. Because yes, our broadcast spreaders will spit seed out. Now typically what I will do is if you spit it out into a flower bed a little bit, it's very easy to kill. Now if it pops up in your grass, I mean it's pretty easy. Mulch is usually going to smother it out. So typically you're not going to have too much of a problem. But if you want to be careful, I would maybe do it by hand or pick up one of these little handy handheld spreaders. It's awesome. And then just use a leaf rake just to smooth it out and get that nice 5 to 7 or 10 to 14 seeds that you need. All right, so JC said, if I aerate, do I do it before I put down compost? You can do it before or after. So again, kind of up to you. If you do it before you compost, then after, when you put the compost over, it's going to sink down into those holes a little bit, which is not going to allow your soil to decompress as much because the soil is going to fill in those holes. So typically, I would recommend putting down compost first. Then when you core aerate, it's going to kind of push it down and mix it up a little bit. It's going to get it kind of all mixed in, which is not a bad thing. If you do it after, it's okay too, because even if you put a little bit of compost down and it falls down into that hole, that's not a bad thing either. So if you plan on aerating, you can put it down before or after. I might recommend before, but it doesn't really matter. I don't think it's going to hurt you either way. Tammy said thanks. Everybody's saying thank you. So Betsy says, how much soil do you need for pH test? Good question. Literally, a trowel, like a little hand trowel. So typically I would say about a third of a sandwich bag. So if you bring a little Ziploc sandwich bag, just a third of it filled up down at the bottom. We don't need a whole lot. At least somewhere around like 3 to 4 spoonfuls. So like teaspoonfuls. That's typically about all we're going to use is a couple spoonfuls full, so we need at least that much. And you typically want to get it about maybe 2 or 3 inches deep if you can, but it can be right off the top of the soil as well, so it doesn't really matter. If you can get a little bit deeper, that's good. We can do up to 5 tests for any customer. I didn't mention this. We can do up to 5 tests for our Garden Rewards customers, so if you want to know all your areas, you can do that. But what I typically recommend is just go around to 5 different spots of your front yard, put them all in one bag. That way you get a general idea of what your pH is, because it's pretty much going to be all the same in those areas. And then we'll get you a pH and say, okay, your pH is a 5.5, and then you'll know pretty much your overall pH. So that's a good way of doing it as well. Let's see, Laura, how long does the kit price deal last? Good question. So this week is our Turfology, our Lawnathon week. So this is our Turfology class. Lots and lots of information. Our Lawnathon deals are going on right now. So the kit is $159, as I mentioned, and our organic lawn kit is $179. They're all $40 off right now. So all of our kits are $40 off. We also have a coupon, so I don't know if you get our emails, but if you didn't get our emails, come in and ask for a coupon. We'll get you one for an extra $10 off. Now this is the lowest price that we're probably going to have all season. Typically our kits are $129 on sale, so you're basically getting a bag of fertilizer, a bag of lawn food for free, is how we always do it. You buy the bag of grass seed, you buy one bag of lawn food, you get a bag free. So it's usually $30 off. Each bag of lawn food is about $29.99, so it's about $30. Right now it's $40 off. And then you've got a coupon for an extra $10, so if you can come in, that deal is good until next Tuesday. So that's what, the 25th, I think, or the 24th? So the 24th, I think, is the last day. Let me check my computer. I'll just make sure on that date. It is the 25th. So August 25th is when that deal ends. So, Laura, I hope that helps you out. But if you can come in, definitely snag up that deal. We'll have coupons in the back. Just ask us for a coupon if you didn't get one. If you didn't get one, it means you're not getting our emails, which means you need to sign up for our Garden Rewards program so you get our emails. We send out great deals in our emails, and it's how you can kind of stay linked to us. So, Laura, hope that helps. Krista said, thank you. Teresa, do those pH moisture meters that you stick into your soil work halfway decently? Yes. They'll get you a general range. So, it's going to say it's going to have a range probably from 3 to 9 or 10, I think. And it's going to get you in the rough estimate. They do make those little testers that you can mix with pills of water. So it's basically you fill it with water and soil, and then you put your pill in there and you shake it up and it'll get you a color range. Those are a little bit more close. Ours is a digital, so it's going to give you an actual pH to the point. So with an error of about 0.2, so very, very close. So our digital pH tester is very, very nice. If you use that soil, the stick, the little pH moisture meter, those work great as well. They're just not going to get you an exact. So if you feel iffy about it, bring some soil in. But if that gets you pretty close, then I think you'll be all right. I can almost guarantee you your pH is low. Pretty much everybody in this area has a low pH. So Teresa, I hope that helps. Does it cost to have the soil tester? Beth, no, it does not. It's free for our Garden Rewards customers. If you're not a Garden Rewards customer, Beth, then just sign up. It's a free, it's a loyalty program, so it's basically the way that we can communicate with you. And also it gets you lots of benefits. It gives you all the deals. We send you coupons. If you give us your email, if you give us your birthday, we send you a birthday coupon. So it's got lots of benefits. So definitely sign up for it. And it gives you free soil tests, up to 5 tests a day. So Nicole says, how do you pick the type of grass you want to put down? So right now, for this class, Nicole, we talked about fescue. And what I would recommend is our fescue. It is the best. I really do believe that. Like I said, it's tested in this area. If you want to consider, doing a summer grass, what you would do is do nothing right now. Just let whatever's there be there, and then come and see us probably around the April timeframe to start working towards planting a summer grass in May. And what those summer grasses are St. Augustine, zoysia, centipede, and Bermuda. I think I said those. Bermuda, St. Augustine, zoysia, and centipede. Those are the 4 that we recommend. We carry plugs of St. Augustine and of zoysia and Bermuda, and then we carry grass seed of Bermuda, centipede, and zoysia. St. Augustine you cannot grow from grass seed. So you can look at those different options. We do have a couple plugs still left if you want to come and see them and kind of see what zoysia or St. Augustine look like. I don't think I have any centipede or Bermuda in right now, but you can come and see those grasses. Fescue by far is the most amazing looking grass, Nicole, and now is the time. So if you were thinking about doing it, Nicole, then I would recommend probably looking at fescue. At least give it a shot. It's an awesome grass, and so I definitely would try that. I love it. It's one of my favorite grasses for sure. Krista says, if you decide to add both topsoil and compost at the same time, should you mix them or apply topsoil and then apply compost? I know you said too much compost is bad due to the heat and potential for root damage. Great, Krista. Great question. You can mix them together for sure. And then if you're overseeding, Krista, I'm assuming you're probably doing a new lawn, but if you were overseeding, then never put down more than a ½ inch of any soil, whether it's topsoil or compost. So we will always want to do a dusting, a very thin layer. If we're doing a new lawn and we mix it with topsoil, so if we're doing an even 50-50 mix, then you can put down as much as you want. So if you've got some swales or some hills or valleys, so we're filling in a valley and it's 3 inches deep of topsoil and compost mix, you're going to be fine, especially if it's an even ratio. So if you come and you get some bulk compost and topsoil, if you get it delivered or if we put it in the back of a truck of yours, then it'll naturally mix as you pull it out. We can kind of spread it over the top of itself in the back of your truck, and then when you scoop it out, it'll naturally mix. You can get it in the back of your truck and mix it up. If you get it delivered by us, when we dump it on your driveway, it'll mix all of itself up. So Krista just said, yeah, new lawn. So for a new lawn, and you do an even mix of compost and topsoil, you're safe no matter what you do. So if you're filling in low spots, put it down. What I will say, Krista, is if you're doing that to fill in some low spots, or maybe in between roots or whatever it might be, we're trying to raise the level. Put it a little bit higher because you got compost in there and it's going to decompose a little bit. So if you put down 3 inches of a topsoil compost mix, it's going to sink probably about ½ inch to 1 inch. So it's going to keep on decomposing because you got some compost in there. So it's going to sink a little bit. So hill up those valleys, make them a little bit higher because that will settle a little bit more. So hopefully that helps you, Krista. And I think that does it for all the questions. I hope everybody enjoyed this. One of my favorite topics to talk about, it was one of the first classes I ever taught, was this Cool Season Lawn program. It's an amazing program. I've done it in my yard for years. I absolutely love it. It works great. So I hope you all have success with it. I hope to see you come in and pick up these kits and ask us more questions. We're here for you. That's what we're here for, is to answer your questions. So definitely check us out and pick up your lawn kits and get started here pretty soon, especially if you're doing a new lawn, Krista. Come in here and let's get you started. Let's get you killing that grass and weeds and get you so you can seed here in the next 3 to 4 weeks, hopefully. All right. Have a great day, everybody. It's great talking with you. See you next time.